Hi, and welcome to another People Progressing podcast. And today I'm really excited with have Lawren Heinisch on today, who has a very, very, very powerful story. I've known her dad, John, for a long time. Great guy, great coach, great friend of mine, and so is her mom, Lisa, who is a great friend of mine in high school. And Lawren has a very, very powerful story that we can all learn from, and she's going to go through it and then go through how she's overcome it and now helping others. So, Lawren, I just welcome you to our podcast, and it's going to be an awesome day. And I hope that a lot of people watch this because it's a really powerful story and how you're going to help people. So, thanks for coming on, and just tell us a little bit about yourself and everything, and a little background, and then you can kind of get into your story.
Sounds good. I'm Lawren, obviously, but I grew up in Littleton, as well as my parents did. So family names were pretty well known. My parents divorced at a really young age, and that really took a toll on my brother and I. My mom remarried, and that was just a complete disaster. Between the just, parents, divorce, fighting, arguing, and that on top of that, we had this evil guy, a part of our lives. And with that came some physical, mental, and sexual abuse between my brother and I. Um, so with that, I mean, just that in itself, as a child is really hard to one even open up about. And that, as I'll tell you later on as well, was held between my brother and I for, well, until he passed away, actually.
Sure.
But, growing up, we were always at the baseball field, always at the baseball field. And if there were not pictures of me being held in the hospital I was born at, I would have been convinced that I was born at a baseball field. But that was just our life. Played sports, did all of the above, went into middle school. My brother, a year older than me, was the popular one. Everybody loved JT. So I kind of, trickled in his footsteps. It really was about he was in 8th grade, going into freshman year. And there was a big thing that happened with my dad. A lot of false news was put out about a bunch of stuff, basically leading to him losing his job heritage as the baseball coach. So for my brother going in as a freshman, the baseball program was nothing. It wasn't a good experience for him. The coaches took out all of their anger and, dislikes for my dad on my brother, and he really, really suffered from it. Which was sad because, I mean, he loved baseball. That was our life. So as a, freshman, as I was a freshman in high school, I felt when I entered there that I never really had the identity of my own. It was, JT's sister or Coach Q's daughter. So it was kind of like a battle for me, like, I'm Lawren, hello. But I stood my ground. I did the best I could. I cheered, I played soccer, I did all of that stuff. And it was suicide prevention week in my freshman year. And I remember sitting in the auditorium, and, there's kids chattering behind me and all around me and laughing and giggling. And this poor mom is just standing up on the stage, just, pouring her heart out to all of us, telling us about her son and how he committed suicide. And, in my head, at the time I was like, this does not happen. Like, this is just like to scare us, or, like, I've never heard of anything like this. And I just kind of, that's how I left it that day. And, moving into my brother, he was a very popular kid. He hung out with older people. The girls loved him, everything about him. So, he was drinking. And when I say drinking, it was beers here and there, going to someone's house and drinking beer. It wasn't anything crazy. So then here comes little sister, and I wanted to be a part of, the fun. So we'd go to people's houses and drink and whatnot like that. There was a day though, he was running out to center field, and he just collapsed. And it was, as a sister, like in the stands, I was kind of like, did he trip and fall? Like, probably shouldn't have laughed at him, but it wasn't until my dad went sprinting after him that I knew something was wrong. After they, got him on a stretcher into the hospital, I was in the waiting room with my grandma, pacing back and forth. What happened? Is he okay? Like you don't really know that feeling until it happens to you. You know what I'm saying? Like you see stuff happen, you're like, oh man, that sucks. But once it's your like blood and the people you love, you're like, okay. So it turned out that he had a very, very severe panic attack to the point where it was like crippling and he just passed out basically. At the time I was like, okay, that's a relief. It's nothing with his heart. It wasn't anything, more serious at the time, So they put him, they gave him like a treatment plan, and my dad was very straightforward, like, let's go do this, let's get him taken care of. I want to make sure that he is okay. And, they ended up putting him on some antidepressants. And for those of you that don't know about these antidepressants, it is so important that you follow them to a T, because the second you feel you don't need them anymore, or the second you feel like harming yourself, you need to speak to your doctor immediately. And unfortunately, in my brother's case, being under the age of 18, he was supposed to be checked on every 2 weeks, just a simple check-in. Hey, how's it going? How do you feel? What's new? My brother never got any of that. And as my dad and I still to this day say, he was doing good. He was full of life. He was back into doing what he loved and happy and funny. And that's in our eyes, perfect. That's what we wanted to see. So my brother, he was not a good student. He was a jokester. But his grades were C's. He had a few D's. And my dad was always on him, like you're not going to be able to play if you don't get your grades up. And so my dad would call me, or, have me go look down on the computer and pull up his grades and tell him what it was. So my dad knew, and I would always run in and talk to my brother and be like, all right, you have a C, like blah, blah, blah. And he would be like, oh yeah, tell him that one's a B, that one's an A. And I did it, I'm the little sister. I'm going to vouch for you a little bit. Dad's not going to know. And it, that went on for maybe like a month or two, I would say. And it was just kind of the normal thing that happened. It was about 2 weeks before February. So I had just turned 15, and I was in school, or I was in my English class, and one of my brother's best friends, Jake, came sprinting into my English class and pulled me out. He goes, it's an emergency. So I went out, and he goes, Lawren, I don't know what to do. Your brother is saying he's done. He doesn't want to do it anymore. He's giving up. And I'm like, what are you talking about? Baseball, He goes, no, Lawren, like he wants to kill himself. And I'm like, what? Like this is my brother, who has been with me since day one, who we have shared so much together and fought so hard together. And all of a sudden he just wants to give up. Like, to me, I'm like, this is a bunch of BS, So I asked him where he was, and he said that he was in the parking lot of Heritage, blaring his music, waiting for me to get out of class. So I just grabbed my stuff, panic, texted my dad saying, what do I do? And he told me just to get in the car. Don't let him know that we know anything. Just get him home. So I got in the car, and for you guys that know Santa Fe, he was going about 100 miles an hour down Santa Fe, running through lights. And it was one of the scariest moments of my life. Just like, oh my God, we're going to get hit. Something's going to happen. thankfully, we pulled into the house. He just went inside about his business, went downstairs, and my dad and I just kind of sat there, and we sat there in silence for, I mean, a good 15, 20 minutes. It felt like hours, just like, what do we do with this information? What do we say? What do we not say to make this better? So we finally called him up, and we laid it out for him. We told him how much he means to us, how important he is to us, how much we love him. What it would do to us if he, did something so awful, and, the family and just all of his friends. And we, at that point, clearly, like, we really thought that we got through to him. I mean, he gave us both hugs. It ended in tears. We were convinced that, okay, we got him. Like, now we just got to kind of play it cool, just kind of keep an eye on him, but not too crazy. So within that 2 weeks, at first it was just a blur, because after that conversation, everything just kind of felt like it was going back up. When really we didn't know that it was just sinking further at that point. So, he started like sending random things to random people. And again, these are the signs that people say you need to look out for. And these are also the signs that after you lose someone to suicide, that you're literally like, why the F did I not think of this? Mm-hmm. Like, oh my God, I could have stopped that. And that's another thing I'll talk about, is those what ifs, because they can kill you. Like, they will, take you over. So sure enough, here comes, Valentine's Day. And my dad called me. It was the night before Valentine's Day. I'm sorry. He called me and said, I need you to pull up your brother's grades. I said, okay, no problem. I called my brother. I said, hey, Dad wants your grades. He goes, just tell him what they are. I said, okay. I was like, did you do something to get straight A's or, He goes, no, just tell him what they are. I said, okay. So I hung up the phone and I pulled him up, and it was F, 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 F. And I'm like, weird. So I called him back and I said, JT, these are all F's. I can't tell Dad this. He goes, yeah, it's fine. Tell him. And I'm like, I'm not telling him that. Like, no way. So of course, me being the sister, I told Dad it was, a C and a B and another C. And, I'm like, I don't want to deal with that. Yeah. So that next day I ended up taking, that's Valentine's Day now. I ended up taking the day off to decorate my then boyfriend's, room with hearts or whatever. And my phone just kind of got really weird messages throughout the day. And when I say weird, it was just like, my brother just randomly like, hey, have you seen that one t-shirt that I used to wear 2 years ago that looks like this? And I'm like, what? Like, oh, did you freeze on me again?
No, we're good.
Okay.
I can hear you. Now we're good.
Okay. So just weird stuff like that. And then I'm getting text messages from friends like, hey, is your brother okay? And I'm like, yeah, like, what do you guys like, and the thing is it never popped back in my head to that conversation that we had 2 weeks ago. It just never came across my head that maybe this was going on. And soon enough, it's like, people are like, where's your brother? Where's your brother? Where's your brother? And I'm like, I don't know. It's 3:00, in the afternoon. I don't know. And they're like, well, can you figure out where he is? So I call my dad, about after like an hour and a half or so of all of this going on. And I'm like, I don't want to freak him out, but now I'm kind of starting to freak out. And I called my dad and I said, hey, where's JT? He goes, downstairs. Why? And I said, well, his friends are just wondering where he's at. And he goes, what do you mean? It's a school night. Like, he's obviously at home. I don't get the question. He goes, I'm going to the store. I'll call you back in 15. So if there is one thing about my dad, is when he says he's going to call you, he's going to call you. And so about 15 minutes had passed, and I don't hear anything. And then I get a text message from my brother saying, don't judge me, love me, and I'll always be in your heart. And at that moment, I'm like, oh God. So I am psycho dialing my dad. I am blowing up his phone. He's not answering. I'm like, what is going on? My phone is blowing up from people. Please tell me you're with JT. Please tell me you're with JT. I'm psycho dialing my brother's phone. Like, nobody's answering me. So I finally call my grandpa and I'm like, where are you? What is going on? He goes, Lawren, I'm at your house right now. I need you to be right. I'm coming to pick you up. I said, okay, can you tell me, what's going on? He goes, all I know is they're trying to save his life. And I'm like, and so at that point I went just like numb, but in my head, all I heard was the word trying, so like in my head is, okay, he's done something, but he's not gone to an extent. Right. So I kind of just put my phone on the back burner. He comes and gets me, and I'm just asking him in the car, what happened? At this point, I'm like, was it a gun? Was it pills? Was it a rope? What was it? So I remember pulling up to the hospital, and I just opened my door. The car was still moving. I just opened the door and I ran inside, and I said, I'm here for my brother. They asked me who he was. I said, JT Corden. And these three ladies just put their heads down. And at this time in life, I was not on good terms with my mom. And a lot of that reasoning was for the ex-husband. So, I didn't, that's.
Come back.
And they took me into a room with my mom, and I'm like, this is the last person I want to see. I was, I started getting frantic. I started yelling. I don't, where's my brother? Where's my dad? I need to see my dad. Where's my brother? And they're like, we're going to take you. He's just, not going to look the same. So again, in my head, I'm like, he's not going to look the same. Okay. So he's alive. And I asked the lady, I go, so he's alive? And my mom just dropped to her knees, hysterical. And she goes, no, he's gone. And from that point, it was like a twilight zone, if you will. I remember like walking into the like ICU room, my dad just on his knees, like yelling, not my buddy. And then once he saw me, he like did not let go of me. And my main goal, for some reason, I just needed to know how it was done. So when I went in there and realized that it was from, hanging himself, that I was like, okay, well, I don't know what that did for me at the time, to be honest with you, but it's what I needed. So that was the worst night of my life. And that's where I was now a 15-year-old girl without her best friend and her brother. And that right there is bad enough. The amount of stuff I had to deal with afterward, going back to school in itself is, I'm not saying that I took advantage of the situation completely, but I took about a month and a half off of school just because I wasn't ready. I didn't, my dad mainly didn't want to leave me like out of his sight. He couldn't bear that fact of not knowing what I was doing at every moment of every day. And I remember that first day going back, and it was It was horrible. And it wasn't anything that was said directly toward me. It was the whispers that you heard, walking by. Oh, that's the girl, her brother committed. Oh, I heard she found him, like all that gossip.
Yeah.
And if I could go back and just give the advice to these high school and middle school kids, is like, you don't understand how your words can affect somebody so deeply. Even if you're just having a side conversation and someone hears you, that can affect somebody in ways that you can't even imagine. And, that literally stuck with me, and it just made me, it built up so much just hate, I think it was, and so much just anger. Because you go back too, and all of a sudden everybody's just living their lives and, moving on with their lives. But here you are still in this like daze, in this tunnel of like, wait a minute, like my life is still a complete mess and you guys are laughing and living your life. So I think that was one of the hardest pills to swallow, is have all these people supporting you right when it happens, and then all of a sudden just poof. And it's nobody's fault, because they deserve to, they deserve to move on with their lives. And unfortunately, we're the ones that have to live with that. So that's when high school kind of took a turn for the worse for me. And it was my own doing. I was in a position where I felt smothered. I felt like my livelihood was ripped from me. The constant looking over me from my family, making sure, what are you doing? Why are you doing this? Where are you? Every second of every day. At 15 years old, you don't have the mindset to be like, this is why they're doing it. I had the mindset where it was, you know what, I went through this too, give me a break. And to this day, I am still just like, I can't apologize enough to both of my parents, and especially my dad, for what I put him through, because I took full advantage of knowing full well that he wasn't going to tell me no for the fear of losing another child. And just saying that makes me sick to my stomach. But I mean, it's the raw truth. And so I now, as a freshman without an identity to start with, now you throw this into the mix, and it's kind of like, where do I go? Who do I hang out with? So I attached on to the people that wanted to be a part of me, and that was mostly, kids older than me. So, and a lot of my brother's friends. So I held on to that, and I completely dismissed the friends that I had, as a 8th grader and a freshman. I dismissed them because I didn't feel like they understood. I felt safe with that group that knew my brother, because I felt we were all going through the same thing and they could understand. And I personally cannot speak for them, but looking back on it now that I am sober, I started off drinking normal. It's not normal to drink as a high schooler, but beers here and there, and it gradually turned into hard alcohol. And when I say hard alcohol, I'm not talking a couple shots. I'm talking bottles, drinking to the point of blacking out and passing out and waking up the next day and feeling like crap and drinking again. And this is 15 going into 16 years old. And I, like I said, looking back on it now, that started my coping. That's how I started coping and dealing with things. At the time, it was having fun. But now, I mean, it was not. It was to put a Band-Aid on what I felt until the next day. And then when it hit me again, I would go right back to the bottle. So that's the rest of freshman year. sophomore year, junior year, and senior year, I have, in those 3.5 years, turned myself into the victim, where I'm going to do what I want because this happened to me and I deserve better. I deserve everything. Nothing bad can happen to me because the worst has already happened. And I took advantage of that. And I soon became the girl that their parents didn't want their kids around. And to me, when these, people would say, no, we're not hanging out with you, I would just completely turn it on them, never taking responsibility for what I was doing. I ended up getting expelled my senior year for drinking. I was captain of the cheerleading team. I had everything going for me. I was homecoming royalty junior year. I had all of this stuff, and I just completely threw it away because of alcohol, because that was my normal like medicine, if you will. And it got me through the day until I could fall asleep.
Would you say that after all this happened with your brother and stuff, I always say that you have a split in the road. You can either become a more bitter or you can become better. And at that point in your life, you're 15. Obviously, it's really easy to be a bitter person.
Mm-hmm.
And
well, I think too, you don't have at that age, you don't have that, those tools in your head to know, okay, this has happened. Which path do I choose? That was never something that crossed my head. It was, this has happened, here I go.
Yeah.
Because that's just not something that was, taught to me.
Right. And it's understandable, right? I mean, you're 15, everyone else in your life that is important to you is going, they're trying to deal and stuff too with the tragedy and so forth. So, let's go to how you've come out of that now. This is awesome how you've come out of that. I'm so proud of you. It's really cool.
So it didn't happen overnight, and that is one thing I cannot stress enough to people. It doesn't happen overnight. It doesn't happen in a week. It doesn't happen in a year. It doesn't happen. It takes a while, and it's work, and it's 100% worth it. I continued my drinking up until 2000. Let's see, it'll be 2 years in January that I have been sober. So you're talking 12, 13 years of destroying. I wouldn't say destroying because I, have come out of it, but I did a lot of damage in that time. Relationships, my health, all kinds of stuff. And I had really hit rock bottom. And, there were times before where I was like, oh, this is rock bottom. And then
it froze again. I'm so sorry. We're not going to stop it. We're just going to keep going because it's going to come back. I'm sorry for the people watching. Are you back?
Yes, I'm back.
Okay, sorry. Okay. You're so awesome.
Where did we leave off? Are we good?
Yeah, just about kind of coming out after the 12 years of drinking.
So I hit rock bottom, and there were many times in that 12 years where I hit rock bottom, but I just didn't hit it hard enough. And unfortunately, that is what has to happen for most people to wake up. There were several times in that 12 years where I was like, what's the point? Who cares? Why, and just overcoming that in itself is huge. And I have 2 children now. I'm married, have 2 children. And even with both of my kids being born, after my son was born, I stayed sober through both pregnancies. It was fine. And then after, there was some stuff that happened with my daughter. So I waited a little bit longer to drink after that. But like with my son, I had him, and for some reason that mindset of I deserve a drink kicked in. And when you first start, you're like, I got this, I can control this. Next thing you know, it got to a point where I'm drinking at night and I wake up and I have to drink again to level myself out to be normal, or you start detox, or, you start all of that withdrawals and stuff. So that was going on for a while. And finally, it took a lot of reality checks and conversations with my parents and my husband and family and the support from them. And it clicked. And that I know that is not easy for people to just, I need to be sober. It's not easy, and it's never gonna be easy. I tried a couple of AA meetings and it wasn't for me. I, went and saw a psychiatrist immediately. And I did my research on antidepressants and medications, and I've been taking them now for 2 years, and I follow everything. And that's another, that's why I was stressing that before, because there are times where, I'm like, maybe I don't need this. And at that moment in time, I will immediately call my doctor and be like, hey, what do you, I don't know, this just crossed my mind. They will, you have to do that because you can't just stop this stuff. There are so many different options in getting help. And I ended up searching. I went through about 4 therapists. And finally, the last one, I sat down with her very first meeting and I said, here's the situation. I said, I have a lot to talk about. I don't want to come in here and have you ask me how it makes me feel. That's not why I'm here. I need to get down and dig into everything now. Can you do that for me? And since then, it's exactly what I needed. So my biggest thing, guys, is like, not one thing is going to work for everybody. And it's going to take several things, just like it did for me, to get to where I'm at. But it is possible. There were days where that light at the end of the tunnel, I used to absolutely despise that saying. Like, that is the most obnoxious thing in the world, until I literally found it. And life is so valuable. And if it's, if you're not feeling like it is, then you're wrong. There are people out there that care. And even if it's a bad day, or somebody's yelling at you, or you got fired, or you're overwhelmed and stressed as a mom or a parent, there are resources out there. I personally am here. I have my phone on 24/7 for anybody at this moment in time. And for the rest of my life, I will, because I truly believe that you all, including myself, we can come out of the hellhole that we're living or have lived, and we can, start new. It can happen. And I believe that. And I'm proof of that too.
Well, so let me ask you this, because this is, it's getting me so excited to see where you're at now. What's your purpose? What's your purpose in life?
My purpose is to just be the best that I can be. And when I say that, I know that's cliche, but I want to be that person that someone can look at and say, hey, you know what? She did it. I can too. I want my kids to look at me when they're older and even now and say, hey, you know what? My mom's a badass. She did this. And I want them to be proud of who I am. I want my family to be proud of who I am, because I myself am. And I want to be able, if I could, I want to literally pick anybody up by the hand that has been knocked down, and just bring them back up, because I feel like the world we're living in right now is so evil, And it's so easy to just give up, and it's not worth it. There's so much more.
Yeah. And you answered the question, because I was saying that when your purpose is greater than yourself, you're in a good place. You're in a happy, you're going to be fulfilled with life.
Yeah.
And you answered that question, because how many times in that last statement that I asked you, what's your purpose in life now? And you said, how many people did you mention? How many other people, your kids, your family, anybody who needs help, come see me. Your purpose is greater than yourself. And it gives me goosebumps. I seriously have goosebumps right now listening to that, because that's what your purpose is greater than yourself. And going through all that you've gone through, what's your perspective on life now?
I mean, it's a gift. It really is. It's just a gift. It's a gift to be able to wake up in the morning. It's a gift to, have your kids running around healthy and happy and crazy, because my kids are crazy. But just, I might not have everything that I could possibly dream of and want I can't say that word, materialistically.
Yeah.
But I have all I need. My family's happy and healthy. I have a roof over my head. I can look at myself in the mirror and smile, and I can see clearly. I can, and I can, now that I'm content with myself, I can use my strength and my fight and put it on to others and do what I can with that.
And then the last one I have to ask you is, what's your passion? What do you love to do?
Oh, this could go a different.
You've kind of answered it already.
Kind of have, yeah. If there's one thing that I have learned, and one thing that really helps me cope still to this day and deal with my past, is watching someone else achieve, watching someone else dig deep and find and come out of that hole. And if I even had a little piece in helping in that, then that's all I need.
Yeah. Purpose equals passion, and passion equals purpose, with a little perspective sprinkled in between. And you just said all three of those things. And that what you're doing, you're going to blow this up. And what I mean by that is the amount of people that you're going to be able to help with your story and how you've overcome it, and the difficulties that you had in that process of overcoming it. And like you said it, that sometimes it takes people longer than others.
Yes.
With the process of overcoming.
And one thing too, guys, is if you're listening to this, is my journey and my ways of getting to where I am are not going to be the same ways that someone else is. But like I've said in some of my posts on Facebook, is I am willing to take the time to help you find the ways that do work. So just because I did it some way, and if you try that and it doesn't work, don't give up and don't get frustrated, because there's a million different ways to get you to where you need to be.
God, you're my hero. I wish the pandemic wasn't here, because I would be giving you a ginormous hug right now, just because
well, when it's over, we'll get one.
You will, because I haven't known you very long. I've known who you are because of your mom and your dad. And like I said, your dad's a dear friend of mine. I've always looked up to your dad as a coach and as a person, and same with your mom. She was always so nice to everybody, and she still is. I mean, she's just one of those people that brings people together. And
she knows everyone too.
Oh, she's amazing. And she's got a great man too right now. Is my Coach Nelson is the man. He's meant a lot to me in my life. So you got a lot of good people in your life. And your husband has to be just a saint and a great person too, helping you through the process. And, I know it's a process that you had to go through by yourself, but you also had a lot of people trying to help you and stick by you during that process. And that's an important thing too.
Very important.
And, as I look at you with the Christmas tree behind you and the big smile on your face, you're in a great place. And I'm sorry that you had to go through that, but I'm not, it's a tough deal what you've had to go through. But I
It
know
is.
I do.
I always tell myself, though, I say it's okay because one day I will see JT again and I'm going to beat him up. So be
And
ready.
I will tell you, probably the number one person that is proud of you right now is your brother JT.
And
I can
that's one of
honestly
my
tell you that.
big, that's one of my big purposes as well, is to live my life through him and for him.
Yeah, I lost a daughter. My two oldest kids are surviving triplets, and I think about her on every day. And it's the same thing. If you have faith, my faith tells me that I'm going to be with her in heaven someday, and I
Exactly.
know that, and that keeps me going. And but I do know that JT is the number one fan of yours, and how proud he is of you.
He
And
better be.
yeah, I know he is. And and the thing is too, you're carrying on his legacy as well. And I want you to know that, because his legacy, and you mentioned what kind of a great kid he was and how happy he was and how he made people feel good and everything else. And guess what you're doing now? You're doing the exact same thing.
Yep.
And I just can't say enough about you. And we're going to keep blowing this thing up. I'm going to try to talk to you about writing a book possibly.
Oh, I'm all for it.
Yeah,
All for
let's
it.
get going on this thing, because there's a lot of people out there that have been in the same position or in the same position right now with the loss of a loved one,
Yep.
with the alcohol problems and so forth. And you're right, the world needs leaders like you in it to help people through a lot of things. So keep going.
I
That's so
will.
cool. And if you ever need anything from me, let me know, and I'll do the same with you. If I need somebody, if I know somebody that needs somebody,
Absolutely. Send them my way.
I in a
Anybody else watching it, come
in
my
a
way. I'm
heartbeat, in a heartbeat, I will. I seriously have tears in my eyes right now.
here. Oh.
So I want you to have a great Christmas with your family. Enjoy every day.
Yep.
Live your purpose, perspective, and passion. I have a thing. I call it PIP.
Okay.
Pray in the morning for thankfulness. 3 things that you're thankful for every morning. And then listen to something that's inspirational, like this. Listen to something that inspires you so that you can go out and inspire others. And then progress every day. Figure out some way that you can keep progressing, keep
Love it.
learning, keep growing, keep progressing. So PIP every day. And you do that every day, and just keep doing that and keep helping others do the same. You're awesome.
It's what I'm here for.
You're awesome. So thank you for being on, and we will be talking soon. And you just blew me away. Thanks, Lawren.
Absolutely, Joe. Thank you.